Leafs. He plays left. The Leafs' first and two forwards to fix that problem. Who they shouldn't. The benched Kerfoot. Move. I think he's the guy.
But I don't not rather take away from another area.
What other area is that?
And that's the problem I'm listening. Because he brings he can move a puck, he's mean, he's big, he's 30.
But if it gets into a situation where the Leafs are giving up Kerfoot plus a defenseman who's going to play 1 month.
No, I don't think that's how it goes. I don't think that's how it ends up going.
It seems like we're always like, hey, the Leafs will go get this guy, and then they pay a lot for whatever player. It's been 2 deadlines in a row.
I think everyone should be prepared to be thoroughly underwhelmed. Which is why I said Seattle.
That's what I'm very excited for. Just something that doesn't cost a lot.
Okay, that's why I picked Seattle, because they don't have defenders who are really going to jump off the page at you, but they still might improve the Leafs defense.
Yeah, all they need. What did you think of Muzzin and Liljegren being maybe your deadline move? And then if Muzzin and Liljegren work out, because that's what they played on Monday, so then you have to get a top 6.
No, you got a broad or a 5th, I think at that point. And they like what Jonas Siegel said, it was probably a low round pick that it gets you to draw. If you get everything, even if he plays if you drop, I don't even know what the Leafs have honestly in picks.
They have for this year. They have their first and second, and I don't know if they're allowed to spend the 7th.
They're not.
They traded it for Brendan Manel. It'll end up being nothing. The Leafs will get to keep that pick.
But it's still, you can't trade it. But they've got all their picks for next year, except for their 7th rounder next year, so you have to look at it like a 4th or a 5th next year.
That is fine. Liljegren and answer is possible.
He's an answer.
It's just, it's a lot to throw at him going into the playoffs, isn't it?
He's another,
I got like 48.
I think he's a good defender.
I like him a lot.
He's getting better. I'm not convinced about him in front of the net. I literally just want a body mover. I want a body mover. All right, well, here's Ben Sherrod. Okay, no, I said a good body mover. I need you.
Also, Ben Sherrod costs a lot of money.
Eric Eagles say that'll be a 1st round pick. That's insane. For Ben Sherrod. And listen to this.
Okay, you can spend whatever you want if you win. But I'm not sure.
Don't put that kind of pressure on the Leafs over Ben Sherrod, is what I'm saying. So look at this. Sherrod is used to the rough stuff. This is from Jonas Siegel's article in The Athletic. The kind of brutally tough competition the Leafs would need from him. He was Shea Weber's tag team partner during Montreal's shocking run to the Stanley Cup final last season. Good. How does he fare in those minutes?
How does he?
Well, the Habs were outscored 16-7 opposite elite competition when Sherrod was on the ice against them last season in the regular season. 48% possession, and this year that number is even worse.
So I think fine, but you got an injury.
Well, no.
How good is your injury?
Put him with Jake Muzzin, who's also injured. Right, +1 chemistry or something.
I'm worried about any team that goes after Sherrod.
They put a firebolt
next to the lightning bolt next to the hammer. And that's the green chemistry.
How hard is it to get right-handed defenders good enough?
God's sake, it's very hard. Well, I looked at that game and I don't feel like there's any reason to freak out or something like that. You know what I mean? It sort of just doesn't feel like
the Leafs handled it worse than I did.
Yeah, the Leafs made a trade.
Yeah, well, they had made that trade before the game started, guys.
Yeah, but
Labushkin had been scratched. Tell everybody about the Jack Campbell trade.
So Jack Campbell became elite after the Leafs had a terrible game. Well, actually, no, it was a good game against the New York Rangers in which Michael Hutchinson was terrible. But Hutchinson was terrible prior to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Liljegren was one of many Leafs defensemen who I thought got eaten alive in their own end against the St. Louis Blues. And then they make a trade for a defenseman after that. But they had been brutal in their own end before that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, to me, I saw Sheldon Keefe losing his cool behind the bench, and I think it was probably based off of previous fiery conversations with Kyle Dubas that helped facilitate this trade. A trade with rules, by the way.
So we'll get into that in a second. That's really, really interesting that you think that. To me, I felt like that trade was on the way. Like, they were talking about it on Fight Night Canada. Like, this was done.
Yeah, they didn't do the trade at that moment. Like, that doesn't make sense. They were working on the trade, obviously.
It was reported by Preach at second intermission while the game was tied.
Yeah.
3. So it's not like Dubas is
right.
and like getting on the
Right, that's not what we're trying to say.
No.
The idea is we saw Saturday night the Leafs struggle defensively again, and Dubas got hit the button and said, okay, complete the deal.
It sounds like I'm repeating myself. It's because the same thing has been true for a long time. And just to ask Kyle Dubas who addressed the thing that I mentioned.
The telling thing I thought was after the game, they asked Steve about Jack Campbell's performance, and he said we didn't play good enough for him to be good. And I thought that was interesting because I think what he's talking about is structural breakdowns. Some of those goals, you just feel like, man, Alan likes to chime in whenever one of his clients scores on the Leafs.
Oh,
so when Braun scored.
Can the Kings call up Martin Turk already? Alan is just inundating my Twitter timeline with Martin Turk AHL goals. Can you freaking call up Martin Turk?
I just feel like when the goals went in, there were times where you're like, I don't know. Like, there was one goal with Muzzin and Liljegren where I'm like, neither of these men has their man. And I think that was goal 2 or 3. And you're kind of thinking, like, they're good until they're not. And then they completely sometimes fall apart. You go, what the heck is going on?
I don't remember if it was the third goal or the game winner. I think it was the game winner. Where Liljegren has no one. Like, he's just, bless him, he's trying, but he's useless in that situation. He's got no one. And Campbell kicks out a rebound. And Mrazek had a goal off of a rebound recently where I think we can all agree it's terrible. He kicks it straight out. You can't do that. Campbell kicked it out, angled enough where I'm like, that should be a crisis that his team helps him out with. There's got to be rebounds, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But that's all it takes. Shoot it at the goalie's pad. Automatic goal. No. If someone is doing anything, if they end up picking the wrong guy, so be it. That's the forward's problem for leaving you in a situation where you're outnumbered. Which, by the way, for Leafs attack, turn it over, Blues head the other way, it's a 3 or 4 on 2, you're done. Liljegren had no one.
Yeah, and I want to shout out, before we go on this one, a couple things. First off, Jordan Kyrou, again, always makes something happen. Always.
Never
Second,
dropped again.
Jesse, your Husso pick earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
That was a while ago, too.
Yeah, he stepped it up.
What are they going to do with, what is he, 8-0-2 in his last 10?
Something like that.
I think it's better than that.
On the season, I think he's 12-3-2.
Well, and it's going to be interesting this offseason because there's going to be teams looking for goaltending. You wonder, Bitter's got to go. Yeah. Obviously, if Husso's going to play that well, you can't have $6 million tied up on a goalie that's sitting on the bench.
Ben Edmonton?
I like the defensive.
The Joy?
Urban Joy and Bennington?
Do I look joyful?
I think they landed on that St. Louis was running with this because they're playing too well, and it's an off-season problem.
Sure. It's so funny that they could win the Stanley Cup with Bennington for that.
Yeah.
But just
we could have said that about the 17-18 Pittsburgh Penguins.
It's so funny. Fleury, Matt Murray all over again.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So let's talk about the Nick Ritchie trade, okay? There's a lot of angles here.
Is that what it's called?
With the trade?
See, I've been wondering, like, is it the Nick Ritchie trade?
Well, to us it is, because the question was, how did the Leafs drop this contract? Right, that was the, and if you look at who they brought in the offseason, it was Ritchie, Kotcha, Bunting, and why can't I think of the fourth one?
A bunch.
Well, no, but there was like those
Ritchie, Bunting, Kotcha,
yeah, Hosang.
Camp. 3 or 4 of those. Hosang. 3 out of 4 of those on an NHL deal.
it's good, right? You can if you're batting 750, you're laughing.
You know what?
But the problem
not
is
just good, great. 3 of the 4 are great.
yeah, and they're valuable pieces that have contributed every game. The problem is that Richie's was the most expensive one, and it was 2 years.
Right.
And he's the one who got the best start on the top line. He was supposed to be that
They
guy.
set him
from the
up.
slot. Yeah.
Like if he was going to succeed, it had to. They gave him every opportunity, and he didn't take it.
There was a lot of Jimmy Vesey there. Like, expensive.
Just kind of vanilla.
Well, it wasn't, not even that. Like, they put him in a position to succeed. I remember BC, I think he got a goal in his first game, and I was like, check it out.
Yes. We just wanted 15 from him. We just wanted 15 goals.
Oh, Jesus. A dozen, 10, anything. And, no, it just didn't work. It didn't work. They gave Richie chances there.
So here's the deal as it breaks out is the conditional draft pick gives you the choice of Toronto's 2022 third or 2025 second.
2023 third.
Sorry, 2023.
You want to read the full right here?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So I can't read it.
Here, Adam, go ahead. Jesse, go ahead.
The Arizona Coyotes acquired Nick Ritchie, a 2025 second-round pick, which is conditional. The conditions on that pick are Arizona has the option to exchange the pick for Toronto's 2023 third-round pick. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Ryan Dzingel and Ilya Labushkin.
Now, Dzingel is on waivers.
And we're not going to know until the show's done.
Yeah.
If he clears, I think he will.
I think he cleared.
He's got like a $1.3 million cap hit or 1.35 or something.
1.7.
Oh, it's Labushkin's got the 1.35.
Yeah, and like a track record of scoring 20 plus goals, but he's got 7 points in 26 games.
Yeah.
1.1.
He's usually good on that team.
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, and I guess his skating's regressed. He's gotten a bit older. The thing is that now, though, he has positive defensive impacts. He has changed his game. Because before, he was known as a bit of a liability defensively and a goal scorer, right?
Torch didn't like
Back-to-back 20-goal seasons, way back when with the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, so Labushkin is the interesting part of this, because Dzingel, I think, is going to report to the Marlies, assuming he doesn't get claimed. Labushkin is brings you absolutely nothing on offense.
Nope.
Like zero.
19 points in 180 games. 1 goal. Yeah.
So nothing.
That's all right.
He's 6'2", he shoots right, he kills penalties, and he throws hits, and he can play more than 18 minutes a night.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think the Leafs need more offense, though.
Is that what people said?
Yeah.
They've got a lot of offense.
No one
okay.
said that. Like,
I'm like, what? No way.
I thought most of the reaction to this trade was pretty logical. Like, okay, good that they got him. No offense. None whatsoever. Good defensively and big. Now what's next?
So you think this is setting up for another piece? Because the salaries match, right?
The salaries match for now. And by the way, so when I first saw this deal, it was like, what is Arizona thinking? He makes 3.3 next year. This doesn't make any sense. They're probably, unless...
On my PS5. I know you don't like the fan here, so. Yeah, we'll take Fortnite. On my PS5. Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
That is stupid.
No, it's not. Wasted memory space on your PS5 either. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
probably going to buy him out and they're going to save him. They essentially bought a third or a second for 1.4.
Right.
Which, whatever, it serves their purposes. But the Leafs addressed a need on defense. Dzingel, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think he was just there to make the money work. And they dumped Richie's contract without any salary.
Now, people are saying it's expensive way to dump a contract. This is a draft pick.
No, a second, like 20 years from now.
Yeah, so this is my question. Is it an expensive way or is it an alright way?
So,
because there's a lot of, like, again, Drew. First off, producer Drew, Mr. Sun Media over here, dropping fucking. He's like, oh, Leaf fans will love this guy, and he plays literally the worst clip of Labushkin's career. Puts it on his Twitter account.
It was in a dang it of. Well, it was Vemelka's fault. It was him giving the puck away. I think
it's a bad giveaway.
Correctly. It was a bad giveaway from either Vemelka or Labushkin.
This season?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's a goal. He was going to love this, and then he was criticizing Dubas, who, by the way, was almost his favorite team's general manager, for saying, well, that was a really expensive way to get rid of a contract. But there are people saying it, so let's address that.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, it's a third-round pick next draft. Or a second, and I will admit, a second is a lot to give up. 4 drafts from now. There is a world where the Leafs do really poorly 4 years from now. And that pick is 33rd overall, which is now the first pick of the second round.
At that point, it might be 36 or 37 overall because you have a new team.
Yeah, still nothing to give up. But
there are people that have a second hockey season.
Yeah, oh yeah. That'll show us.
We're playing ASU and
We're
back to Phoenix. We got Glendale and Phoenix.
So in 4 drafts from now, the Arizona Coyotes might have the Leafs second rounder and an NHL building to play in.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. True.
And by the way, that second round pick is 2025, and then 3 years down the road we expect him to play.
Right. So we're talking like 2028, 2029 when you expect this player to hit the NHL?
Guys.
Dubas won't be the general manager of the Leafs.
No, Dubas will be in his 40s. When this, so will we. So will we. Yeah. So will we. Jesse won't.
No, not yet.
I don't even think you're in your 30s yet.
Not yet, no.
Like, guys, like, listen, I get being grumpy. I get grumpy about this team. Oh boy, you really got to go out of your way for this one.
It's a good trade.
It's a date. Here's the way I put it. So, I was talking to Myrtle, and he goes, oh, well, this could help the Leafs re-sign Jack Campbell. And he's right, but here's another way to look at it. Morgan Riley makes $5 million. Next year, make it 7.5. Guess what?
There's Richie. There's the Rays.
Yep, done. The Rays for next year is covered like that. Dzingel and Labushkin could play 0 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a good game. But here's the thing. They're going to play games for the Leafs. Labushkin has a chance to help fix a problem they've had forever. Mm-hmm. And they saved $2.5 on the cap next year. That's ridiculous.
And Kessel's number comes off the books of the cap.
1.2. So that's 3.7. Which is what?
Way more than they've had the last few offseasons to spend.
You really got to go out of your way to hate this one, guys.
Welcome back.
So one of the most talked about teams in the National Hockey League this year has been Nashville. Before the season starts, Most, myself included, gave them zero chance to play. This was a division that looked like it was ready for, this big arms race, and they just didn't have the arms to keep up. What's interesting is basically everybody in the national lineup has seen their season turn around from where it was last year. Their game is so much better. So they're 29-18-4. What's interesting is last year they made the playoffs as well. Despite some down seasons, they made the playoffs as well. This year, the players have a down season, they're having a good year. So right now, they're 3 points behind Minnesota. The problem is they've played 3 more games than Minnesota. They're 4 points behind St. Louis. They've played 1 more game than St. Louis. So they've played more games than a lot of other teams right now that they're competing with. They're 3 points ahead of LA in the wild card spot they have. They've played 1 more game than LA. They're 3 points ahead of Anaheim as well, but they have 2 games in hand on Anaheim. What hurts Anaheim is the same thing that kind of hurts Nashville, having played more games than teams they're playing for playoff spots with. And they're 6 points ahead of Dallas, which sounds like a lot, but they've also played 2 more games, and they have yet to play Dallas a couple more times, which is upcoming. So I think we'll have a better idea of where Nashville's really at after this set of 10 games. But I will say this, that going in and beating Florida 6-4 last night, very few teams have beaten Florida at home, so that's a pretty impressive feat for the Nashville Predators. Anybody's going to ask why I'm wearing the Winter Classic hat with this jersey, which is the stadium hats they want $52 for. I say no to a $52 hat. So their upcoming schedule, they come home, they play against Dallas, and they play against Tampa. Dallas, again, they're 6 points ahead of Dallas. They're going to want to make that 8 points at that stage, right? Then they go to Seattle and San Jose on a little 2-game road trip before they come back home, and they win a 3-game stand against Dallas again, Anaheim and St. Louis. So both of their games against Dallas are at home. And of course, that's a rivalry that's been, pretty strong over the last few years. If they can be the team that puts Dallas out of the hunt for a playoff spot, I think they'll be pretty happy with that. The game against St. Louis, of course, one of the teams they're chasing. Game against Anaheim, team is chasing them. Then they go to Minnesota, come home and play against Pittsburgh, and then they go to Philly. That rounds out that 10-game segment. So it's not an impossible 10 games. It is a reasonable 10 games. Sure, there's some home road going on, but some teams thrive on that. So really, when you look at it, this upcoming 2-game homestand is important. The 2 games in Seattle and San Jose, they should win those games. With the way things were going for Seattle, they lost 5 in a row in regulation. San Jose's won 2 of their last 11 now. So, realistically, Nashville should win those games and then come home to those 3 against Dallas, Anaheim, and St. Louis. Again, it's an interesting schedule for them. What's also interesting is their special teams, which have been a problem at times. Their power play 24%, their penalty kill 27%. One thing that I've been talking about, of course, with these trade deadline videos is cap space. Nashville has a lot. And by the time we get to the trade deadline, according to Cap Friendly, it's like $50 million in cap space. It's ridiculous. So they are able to bring in 1 or 2 pretty big money contracts if they wanted to. They could bring in a couple of expensive rentals. They still have their own draft pick this year and beyond. So they could trade draft picks if they feel like this is the time to strike while the iron's hot. So Yossi's the leading scorer this year. 49 games, 14 goals, 39 assists, 53 points. It's a remarkable bounce back year for Yossi. A poor season by standards last year, 48 games played, 8 goals, 25 assists, 33 points. It was not a very Roman Yossi-like year last year, right? So this year he has scored 20 more points. honestly, Yossi, while we have the discussion of Norris and who might win it, let us not forget Yossi because he's one of the.
When you think of a cup of Nespresso, where does your mind go? To the hot spring waters of Costa Rica?
Before. Matthew Shane, one of the biggest comeback stories of the season. 47 games, 23 goals, 23 assists, 16, 46 points. Last year, 34 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. There was real talk about should Nashville buy him out. What would that look like if they buy him out? It's an expensive contract. It's a big, a lot of dead cap if they buy him out. This year, he's been one of their best players. And honestly, it might be the best year Duchesne's had in the National Hockey League. It's up there. It's one of his best years, if not his best year. Forsberg, who is a pending UFA, 38 games, 26 goals, 18 assists, 44 points. Last season, where he played well, 39 games, 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points. So again, his totals are much better this year than last year. And it's pretty much universal across the board. Granlund's who they brought back. 49 games, 8 goals, 32 assists, 40 points. Last year, 51 games, 13 goals, 14 assists, 27 points. And a debate about whether or not maybe you need to upgrade over Granlund. Is Granlund playing well enough? And yeah, this year he's been excellent. The 32 assists is remarkable. Ryan Johansson. Well, it slowed down a bit. It feels like it slowed down a bit from recently, but in 48 games, 13 goals, 23 assists, 36 points. Last year in 48 games, he had 7 goals, 15 assists for 22 points. And that's another expensive contract, $18 million between Johansson and Duchesne. Now, the way that they're producing right now doesn't necessarily excuse their contract, but it makes them a lot more powerful. And it definitely makes Nashville a much better team with both Johansson and Duchesne having these bounce-back years. And then you've got Tanner Jeannot, who last year played 15 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points. That's not enough games to lose your status as a rookie, right? He plays those games in the regular season. Pretty sure he played them in the playoffs as well. Made a great impression. And this year, he has continued to make that great impression. 51 games, 17 goals, 14 assists for 31 points. And he's in the running for Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he's going to get there or not. For me, if I had a vote right now, it's probably still Raymond or Sider out of Detroit. But Jeannot's an interesting player, kind of in a category all of his own, in that he's scoring goals, he can throw hits, he can fight if he needs to, and he can kind of do a little bit of everything. So really, Jeannot might end up being the best all-around player out of this rookie class, even if he doesn't end up winning Rookie of the Year. And it's one of those amazing stories, because Ellie Tolvanen has not taken that next step this year. It's fine, because Jeannot has been fantastic. And we've seen these bounce backs from players, right? So, really for them, it's been amazing. The other amazing thing is UC Saros, who's having a very good year. 24, 15, and 3 with a 923 save percentage. Last year, he had a 927. So last year, it feels like they were relying even more on Saros than they were this year. And I've talked about how Saros was dragging them to a good record at certain points of the year. Notice I haven't been talking about that lately, because it feels like Nashville's game, well, they lost 4 in a row before that game last night against Florida. I do think Nashville as a team has been better since that little run there where Saros was basically stealing victories. So for Nashville, it's been an amazing run. Riddick is the backup, 4-2-1, .890 save percentage. I think it was a smart move for them to go with Riddick last night. He ends up allowing 4 goals against Florida, but his save percentage was pretty high. It ends up being a pretty good bet to put him in against Florida. And so, yeah, Riddick gets his 4th win against the Panthers. Who'd have thunk it? Their UFAs this coming summer, Cousins, Benning, Harper, and Riddick, as well as Forsberg being the big one. Their RFAs this summer are Cunnin, Brennan, and Glass. So what's interesting with this is, none of these players are going to be really, really expensive. Trennan's going to get a raise. Cunnin probably get a raise as well. Glass is in the minors, right? So they're in a position where they've got tons of cap space. And one thing that was talked about in this past offseason, it feels like it's talked about in a couple, is that they're in on some of these big name free agents that end up ultimately signing somewhere else. And so they have this cap space and this money that they've really not been able to spend. What it does is it puts them in a position where David Poile now looks really smart for the fact that players end up signing elsewhere, because he's still got all this cap space to add at the deadline. They could add 2 forward backup. If they made that decision, They have the money to go out and get somebody. They could go out tomorrow and get Marc-Andre Fleury if Chicago was willing to trade within their own division, which they probably not. I'm just using that as an example, right? So it's fascinating to see how Nashville put themselves in a position where they could be a major player on deadline day. They could end up being a team that out of nowhere adds and could become kind of a bandwagon team heading into the playoffs. So 2017, they lose in the finals against Pittsburgh. Since then, it's been a steady decrease in playoff success. They lost in the second round in 2018 against Winnipeg. Interestingly enough, of course, they won the President's Trophy that year. So 2017, they were underdogs. They went all the way to the final. 2018, they're favorites, and they lose in the second round against Winnipeg. We're pretty close to them in the standings, right? So they were narrow favorites in that series. 2019, they lost in the first round against Dallas, the series that they were favored going into. 2020, they lose the qualifying round against Arizona, which felt like it was bottom. 2021, they lose in the first round against Carolina, a pretty tight series between those two teams there. And yeah, it feels like they're kind of on their way back up, maybe playoff success as well. I do think that it's better for them if they're underdogs. I think that if there's not a whole lot of belief in them, I think they kind of rally around that. Look at this season. They weren't supposed to be a playoff team according to almost every prognostication there was, and yet here they are. The one qualifier I had in there was Nashville's proven us wrong before. Nashville is one of those teams that we look at them on paper and say, I don't know, I guess they're okay, but they're probably not a playoff team, and then they surprise us. And that's been the case since Nashville came into the league. I remember when they made their expansion picks, and there was a lot of, wow, this team looks as bad as Ottawa did their first year. And yet, they ended up winning more games than they probably should have. Barry Trotz was very good at getting wins for them. And Coach Hines has done very well for Nashville as well. It's interesting because I know there was a lot of, myself, I was surprised that they picked up Hines so soon after he'd been let go by New Jersey. It's honestly worked out pretty well. Even the Ellis trade, right? The Ellis trade, which hasn't necessarily really worked out that well for Nashville, didn't really work out for Phil either because Ellis hasn't played that much this year. So for Nashville, more cap space, I guess. And honestly, even the moves that Boyle makes that don't look like they should work, somehow they usually end up working. Or if they don't, it's okay because Nashville's still in the playoff spot. And so for David Boyle, who's been the only general manager Nashville's ever known, he just has this ability to, whether it's by accident or by design, his moves usually end up being pretty smart. And he ends up being seen as one of the better general managers at the end of the year, even if we do scrutinize the moves during the off-season, but certain parts of the year as well. Again, it's worked out pretty well. But the question I have is, should Nashville be adding at the deadline? Are they in a position where if they load themselves up, they can realistically go on a run? Or are they going to end up being out in the first round? That's a question I have. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing.
Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then Ubisoft. They killed Uno! How? What? This is how it's been for over a year now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know, they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to break, why would you do it to Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people. over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Isn't this illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this? You know Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then... Ubisoft. They killed Uno! How? What? This is how it's been for over a year now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know, they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to break, why would you do it to Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Isn't this illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this for over a year? They're stealing in broad daylight! It's pretty sad, actually. This game is rated 2 stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars, easily. But all the recent reviews are just 1 stars, and rightfully so, because it's just people realizing they've been fucking scammed. Crashes, literally unplayable. Crashes. 5 stars. Love the game, but needs more achievements. Alright, this dude's in his own world. It's so sad. These reviews are recent too, so these people are fresh victims. They just wanted to play Uno. This is their official, response and solution. Look at this shit. We're sorry you've been experiencing crashes. This issue is under investigation. In the meantime, please try using a different Xbox account on the console, sharing Uno to... What? What is this? Why are you making me do calculus? Just fix Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then... Ubisoft. They killed Uno! How? What? This is how it's been for over a year now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know, they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to break, why would you do it to Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Isn't this illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this for over a year? They're stealing in broad daylight! It's pretty sad, actually. This game is rated 2 stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars, easily. But all the recent reviews are just 1 stars, and rightfully so. Because it's just people realizing they've been fucking scammed. Crashes, literally unplayable. Crashes. 5 stars. Love the game, but needs more achievements. Alright, this dude's in his own world. It's so sad. These reviews are recent too, so these people are fresh victims. They just wanted to play Uno. This is their official, response and solution. Look at this shit. We're sorry you've been experiencing crashes. This issue is under investigation. In the meantime, please try using a different Xbox account on the console, sharing Uno to... What is this? Why are you making me do calculus? Just fix the game! It's been over a year! Over a year! Do you understand how ridiculous that is? You know Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then... get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know if they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to play, why would you do it through Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it. Is it just illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this for over a year? They're stealing in broad daylight. It's pretty sad, actually. This game is rated 2 stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars easily, but all the recent reviews are just 1 stars, and rightfully so. You know Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then Ubisoft. They killed Uno! What? This is how it's been for over a year now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know if they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to play, why would you do it through Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Is it just illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this for over a year? Stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars easily, but all the recent reviews are just 1 stars, and rightfully so, because it's just people realizing they've been fucking scammed. Crashes, literally unplayable. Crashes. 5 stars. Love the game, but needs more achievement. Alright, this dude's in his own world. It's so sad. These reviews are recent too, so these people are fresh victims. They just wanted to play with them. This is their official response and solution. Look at this shit. We're sorry you've been experiencing crashes. This issue is under investigation. In the meantime, please try using a different Xbox account on the console sharing Uno to look. What is this? Why are you making me do calculus to fix the game? It's been over a year. Over a year. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? You know Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then Ubisoft. They killed Uno! What? This is how it's been for over a year now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know if they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to break, why would you do it to Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Isn't this illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. Broad daylight! It's pretty sad, actually. This game is rated 2 stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars easily, but all the recent reviews are just 1 stars, and rightfully so, because it's just people realizing they've been fucking scammed. Crashes, literally unplayable. Crashes. 5 stars. Love the game, but needs more achievements. Alright, this dude's in his own world. It's so sad. These reviews are recent too, so these people are fresh victims. They just wanted to play Uno. This is their official, response and solution. Look at this shit. We're sorry you've been experiencing crashes. This issue is under investigation. In the meantime, please try using a different Xbox account on the console sharing Uno to look. What is this? Why are you making me do calculus to fix the game? It's been over a year. Over a year. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? I can't believe this. You know Uno, right? Universally loved card game. Everyone loves Uno. My friends and I would play for hours over Xbox. Unfortunately, Uno for Xbox was published by and is currently being handled by Satan. This is what Ubisoft has done to Uno on Xbox. It's been like this for over a year now. You load it up, you get to the title screen, and then... Ubisoft. They killed Uno! How? What? This is how it's been for now. You can't even play the game. It crashes at the menu. Sometimes you can't even get to the menu. It crashes every single time without fail. I don't know, they did like some kind of update and now everything's fucked. Of all the games to break, why would you do it to Uno? It's just a fun card game. Why would you deprive the world? Ubisoft, we are the people, and we have had enough, I say. It's been broken for over a year, right? And they're still selling it! Isn't this illegal? They took Cyberpunk off the store because it was broken. They did that within its first week. How have they been allowed to sell this for over a year? They're stealing in broad daylight! It's pretty sad, actually. The game is rated 2 stars now on Xbox. They used to be 5 stars easily, but all the...
Yes, we are back with more trade called Add to Deadline. It's a little over a month away at this point in time. Many custom senders will be attempting to address their needs, while the bottom feeders will be looking to scrounge up picks. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't see a surprising blockbuster trade comes out as well. In this video, we'll be circling back to a couple bigger pieces on the blog, while also talking about other moves that could be made. And with that, there are 4 NHL players who could be moved this deadline and where they may end up. In our last video, we spoke about the Pittsburgh Penguins potentially looking into some help for Tristan Jarry, but another need that Hextall could look to address is a top 6 forward. With an injured Jason Zucker paired with a failed experiment in Kasperi Kapanen, the second line for Hextall will likely be the area he's looking to improve. Danton Hyman, who is currently on the left side paired with Evgeny Malkin, and Jeff Carter, has 2 points in his last 5 games with Pittsburgh. Knowing that, according to Pittsburgh Hockey Now, the Blue Jackets had a pair of scouts recently at the Pittsburgh vs. Toronto game. There's a possibility that CBJ is already coveting one or more pieces that Hextall could offer. As for who Pittsburgh could go for, Max Domi has been tied to Pittsburgh in trade rumors countless times before. Elliot Friedman echoed potential for a deal, and it would make sense at least on Domi's end because of sentiment. Ty Domi, Max's father, has a pretty close relationship with Penguins legend Mario Lemieux. Therefore, on Domi's end at least, it would likely be a win-win. Even though he wouldn't deliver as much grit as the Penguins have been in need of, his creative style of play could complement Evgeny Malkin's especially quite well. Currently, a pending UFA with a cap hit of $5.3 million, Domi would likely only command a second-round pick and maybe a